Tip from Josh for $3 dues. Did you see the Wukong reviewer document? Paul Tassi confirmed it was legit. How funny is that somehow IGN happened to be correct? Well, so to be clear, it's not a reviewer document. It's like a content creator promotional document type thing. So my understanding is that they did not send that document to reviewers. They sent this particular document that's been spread around. Maybe they sent a similar one to reviewers, but this particular one that's been leaked around was sent to people who got early access to the game, like streamers or YouTubers that wanted to make guides and stuff like that. For example, I was talking to a YouTuber that did get a review code, and they also got a number of codes that will only be active and work once the game launches. And those codes have been provided for free, but they're to be used for content creation to promote the game. So like how to beat this boss quickly, you know, they send it to whatever that channel is, game boss database, whatever. So stuff like that. And in this leaked do's and don'ts, do enjoy the game. Don'ts: do not insult other influencers or players. Understandable. Do not use any offensive language or humor. Do not include politics, violence, nudity, feminist propaganda, fetishization, and other content that instigates negative discourse. Do not use trigger words such as quarantine or isolation or COVID-19. Do not discuss content related to China's games industry policies, opinions, news, etc. And people like freaked out about this because they acted like, wow, that's not very freedom of speech, is it? For one, it's really, really funny to me to bring up freedom of speech when talking about a review document, not a review document, a content creator guideline document sent from a Chinese company. Like, it's funny to me. You're being given a game for free, and in exchange, they're asking you to do and not do a couple of different things. If you're uncomfortable with those things that they've requested of you, don't take the game for free. It's pretty simple. Like, I don't know why this is so scandalous, but the headlines about this story circle on two things, obviously: the feminist propaganda and all talk of COVID. Now, first things first, let me say, I've done sponsorships with various companies. I've done preview events where there is no like monetary compensation or anything. It's just, hey, do you want this game to talk about it? Whatever, you know, you can play the game for free. We'll just give you the code. So we're not giving you a check, but we'll give you the game code and some for your audience to give away. Or maybe it's even just like, here's our press kit for talking about our game. And in all of these things, pretty much every company for the last 4 years has asked to not talk about COVID. They'll ask you not to talk about, like, gambling is a really common one. They don't want you to talk about or show, certainly, lewd images. They'll say, like, please no pornography, please no reference to OnlyFans, please no reference to drug use, things like that. And on the one hand, you're like, I can't believe they have to ask this. Like, they have to request people not talk about it. But if you've seen Kick or Rumble, I think you can probably understand why they have to be clear. Like, because you'd be surprised how many people out there will be like, today I'm playing Black Myth Wukong, and every time I die, I snort a line. And so I can understand why they have to just say it. However, people have freaked out about this. And for one, my immediate opinion is, if you don't like the guidelines that they put in, don't take the free game. Like, I can't believe I have to say that out loud, but like, as with anything in life, if you go somewhere and they're giving you something and in exchange they ask for something else, if you don't like it, you just don't do it. Like, nobody's forcing these YouTubers and streamers to take the game code. They probably make enough money to just buy the game. If they don't like being told they shouldn't include nudity or violence or politics or fetishization or whatever that means, then just don't take the game code, first and foremost. As for the term feminist propaganda, on the one, like, there's of course some people memeing on this and are like, now I'm going to buy 3 copies of the game because they're calling that negative discourse, which is kind of funny. But what I interpreted this as is basically a reference to the hit piece that IGN tried to put out, where they came in and this is an archived link, so they're not getting any ad revenue for it. But this is the article that they wrote where they basically tried to claim that a couple of developers who are making Black Myth Wukong had said some kind of like cringy stuff and like even at times crude or even just gross things, but therefore the whole game should be canceled and you shouldn't buy it, shouldn't support it, which to me is just this weird Puritan approach to stuff that I just don't find helpful. Furthermore, we actually had people from China come into our stream and onto the video I did on this. And I even had some people email me directly who are from China and can read this natively, not with Google Translate or anything. And they said, yeah, a lot of the posts are what I would consider to be very, very crude. But many of these translations, if not all of the translations they provide, are done with like a Google Translate or something and are just not accurate. They just miss the tone. They don't understand it. And the best example I recently experienced with this was I went to a wedding. Okay. This is why you can't just rely purely on translations. There's some stuff, even when translated properly, that are just lost in the shuffle. We went to a wedding and there was it was for one of my dear friends, and the bride's family speaks Ukrainian. And so they were doing like a little wedding speech, and they passed the microphone to all members of the family. They give a little speech. And because a lot of the people at the wedding didn't speak Ukrainian, they were like, oh, let's translate it. So the bride's brother got up there and he was translating in real time what like the grandparents were saying during their wedding speeches to like congratulate the happy couple. He did a very, very good job translating, did a really good job with it. But at one point, her grandfather sat up and he gave a very, very sweet speech. Very, very sweet speech. But there were a couple of things that just didn't translate into English properly. Like at one point, I found out later, what he was trying to say was, no one will ever love you, dear bride. No one will ever love you as much as I, your grandfather, loves you. That's what he was saying in Ukrainian. The translation was, I am your grandfather. No one will ever love you. And then he just moves on. And so it just didn't work. But if you were to take that and make an IGN hit piece about it, you would have been like, ah, yes, this grandfather tells his granddaughter that just got married that no one will ever love her. And it's like, okay, it was a translation, but clearly the meaning and intention was lost. And that's why when I hear that people are like actively translating and using those translations from like a Google Translate, which is already pretty bad, and then using that to reach conclusions that are really toxic and really, even if they were true and accurate, I feel like they're just done in bad faith and unreasonable. At that point, I lose interest. And what should be immediately disqualifying for this whole article is a point that they included, which I thought was parody at first, but I'm not joking. Their final point, which they believe is the capstone on this whole thing for why you shouldn't buy Black Myth Wukong, was finally there's the Game Science logo. Several Chinese netizens have pointed out that it resembles a sperm. Game Science has yet to confirm or deny this finding. And if you don't know what Game Science, let me go over here. Game Science, the studio. Their logo, that's it. The person that wrote that article for IGN was trying to argue that the studio is so sexist and toxic it shouldn't be supported. And their final piece of evidence is that it looks like a spermatozoa. Now, here's the thing. Even if it is, which I don't believe it is, somebody was saying that it's actually a reference to one of their other games that has these like special, like, I don't even know what you call it, but it has like this RTS style, and then there's a particular projectile that looks like that. I don't know if that's true, but that's what somebody told me. But even if this is straight up a sperm, they're like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if our logo was just a sperm? How does that make the studio so sexist that it deserves to be canceled? If the logo were a couple of fallopian tubes, would you be saying the same thing? Like, what? It just doesn't make any sense. That's why, even if this is like, it's how you can tell the quality of an argument in something that's a controversial discussion. If you just say, okay, let's assume you're right with all of your premises, is the conclusion demonstrably correct as well? No. Like there was a jump you made. It's like your argument is basically the logo looks like a sperm. The logo is supposed to be, that's A. B is the logo is designed around a sperm intentionally. Therefore, the studio is sexist and you shouldn't buy any of their games. What? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't follow. Now, I know they're trying to build it into a broader argument of, well, look at this producer that 5-6 years ago said this, and therefore it's super toxic. And then when you combine that with the fact he's working in this company that has a sperm logo, therefore it's all bad. I still don't think it's convincing at all. So my interpretation of this request from their post is basically that they're saying, yeah, that article was effectively propaganda that was attempting to tear down our company in a very bad faith effort. And as a result, if we're going to give you the game for free, we ask that you don't bring it up. You don't talk about that because it's not worth bringing up. Let the game speak for itself. Play the game. Why do you need to bring up any of these issues, whether it's politics, violence, nudity, feminist propaganda, fetishization, other content that instigates negative discourse? Also, COVID or quarantine or isolation. Some people, again, that's like the subtitle. I think all of the sponsored stuff I've done, whether it was for Holzkern watches, which I do love dearly, this watch, or Herman Miller that makes my chair. I'm pretty sure all of them asked, yeah, can you not talk about like COVID in your video where you're talking about a chair or about a watch or about any of these things? Like, it's not relevant. Why would you talk about it? Like, it's just, can you just talk about what you're supposed to talk about? And I think that's totally fair. Again, if you don't like it, don't take the game for free. Like, it's really not that complicated. If you really want to talk about COVID in your Black Myth Wukong Let's Play, just buy the game. Just buy the game. But that's why they probably have to clarify it, because if you're the type of person that needs the game for free, you probably are the type of person who thinks it would be a good idea to talk about COVID or something in your Let's Play video. So I guess that's why they have to clarify it. Yeah, wow, it's crazy they don't want you to talk about the most polarizing topics in a video game review. Well, and this isn't even like the review. Specifically, this went out as do's and don'ts for content creators who intend to cover Black Myth Wukong during its August launch period. My understanding is that reviewers might have received a similar set of guidelines or topics or whatever, but this particular thing that's been going around, this one was going out to like streamers. It might even be Twitch itself, like through their, I forget what it's called, portal for partners, because of the purple color. It might actually be through that. So if you're taking the game for free, yeah, like, just don't take the game if you're really bothered by it. I just don't understand why it's like so scandalous. It's like, yeah, you don't have to do that. The guidelines went to people who didn't get review codes, which is so weird. They were getting free codes for the game, but not during the review period. So this is pretty common where like you'll have a game launching, say, here, I can do it like this. You'll have a timeline. This is the game's launch, okay? Well, we'll say launch, or I'll do it like Kevin, lunch party, okay? This is your lunch party. This is when the game is launching. Then you have the initial codes go out, okay? So these are review codes. The embargo lifts. They'll then send out codes to streamers and influencers. So we'll call them like influencer codes. And then these codes usually unlock pretty close to launch. Maybe the day before, maybe even the day of, maybe even shortly after. But what this thing is the influencer codes. The review codes are a different thing that might, again, have had similar outlines. But like I said earlier, I know somebody, I've spoken directly to somebody who received review codes, or a review code, and they received like 3, 4, or 5 further codes that were the influencer codes, but these wouldn't unlock until launch. So they still can't use them. But as part of that, they got this. So this applied to these codes, which again are free codes that these streamers or YouTubers get. Have I gotten any? No, I've not taken any codes or anything for Black Myth Wukong. I haven't. So I will be paying for the game. I actually technically already did, just like everybody else playing it at launch. So I've not done anything like that. But if I had gotten an influencer code and they sent it over, it would be in this batch, and they would say, hey, if you take this game for free that we're giving you, please follow these guidelines. And if you're not comfortable with the guidelines, just don't take the code. It's really not rocket science, but I think a lot of people are like really shocked. I've done many of these preview events and stuff, and I've seen many of them request these exact things. What I've not seen them request is feminist propaganda specifically not be discussed, and then content related to China's games industry, policies, opinions, news, etc., which is again sort of falling in line with the political discourse. They don't want you to bring up the fact that they have special licenses they have to follow. They have whole censorship boards. Like they have tons of stuff that they deal with in China, which if I took the game for free, they would be upset that I'm talking about this right now. But that's again one of those things. Like if you really are wanting full freedom to say whatever you want, just don't take the freaking game code. So all of this to say, am I particularly bothered by this? No, they're not forcing anybody to do this. If you don't want to talk about that, then just don't take the free code. Pretty simple. And that's been the case for pretty much any game where I've ever gotten like a free code or something. There's usually guidelines, not these specific ones, not specific ones for like feminist propaganda or the Chinese government discussion or Chinese games industry discussion, but pretty much all these other things, the request not to talk about COVID, that's extremely normal. No offensive language, no politics, violence, nudity, usually gambling's in there, but it's not here. Yeah, no discourse over controversial subjects and stuff. Just exactly what you would expect. They're like, hey, this is a game. We want you to make videos about our video game. Can you not bring up like the latest episode of To Catch a Predator? Like it's just not relevant. Can we not? So yeah, I think people are potentially overreacting, but I'm not particularly perturbed. WWEA, people from Western countries applaud this email. However, as someone who comes from a dictatorship, I know exactly how problematic this email and its requests are. I'm not defending feminism or wokeism in any way, but I suggest these people to live under a dictatorship for a year or two to fully understand how truly blessed they are to not know why this email is harmful. Again, if you like, these are for codes that will unlock when all the others unlock, and for like promotion and content. Maybe these even launch or unlock a day or two before, or a few days before, but they're free codes that you don't have to take. If you do business with somebody and they have requests of you and you willingly enter into a business relationship with them by taking the free code, I don't know how you get to then complain that their requests are too much. Just don't take the damn code. It's just, it's insane. He took my thing.